So the heads up to this longer podcast. It's all about how fear, anxiety, worry, stress, low confidence, self-esteem is doing something good for you. Oh, well, it did a long time ago. And how to move away from it, to move towards the way you want to feel in all contexts of your life, all different areas, and enjoy life again. And be free to be comfortable, to have confidence, to be just you, the real you, and express yourself in such a way that makes life richer and your goals come quicker and bigger and brighter. If that's of interest, possibly, eh? Have a listen after this. Hey, this is the Personal Development Unplugged podcast, where we use hypnosis. Yeah, hypnosis. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Don't worry what it is. It's just a mass of processes that we're going to get you to change. Change to let go of anxiety, low self-esteem, and create massive supreme inner confidence. But that's confidence in your competence and competence in your confidence, which means you can do anything and be safe, to enjoy the world as it should be, with you at the helm, creating the life that you want. That's what this podcast is about. You, and being the best you could be, singing from your real voice, aligned with your mission, aligned with your passions. That's what it's about. So if you're interested in letting go of anxiety, if you're interested in letting go of fear, guilt, all those blooming syndromes, imposter syndromes, and every little bit of the mind which is negative, then have a listen here, because we've got some wonderful processes and lots of good conversations between you and me to get us both thinking in such wonderful ways. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Just take the chance to have a listen.
Warning.
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 Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Hi friend, how you doing? How you doing today? Now, stepping away from fear and how to step away from it. Because I want to tell you a few things. I want to share with you a few things, some of my thoughts. And the thoughts around this is, one of them, it's simpler than you think. We make so much of all of this. But I'm going to give you a really simple way to think about fear and stepping away from it. Because it's a simple process, I guess, of saying this but not this, or not this but this. But the thing is, it's not just that. It's about a thing in between. It's about keeping the intention. And I'll go deeper into that. Just giving you the big picture, the overview. Because I believe your unconscious mind, although it does the best for you, can sometimes be a little bit misguided. And also, you've got to take a bit of responsibility for this fear. Because believe it or not, you chose it. But no, well, we'll get there. We'll get there. This is an overview. And what I really want you to understand, or feel, maybe feel would be a better way, is something like this in your head. But that's not feeling in your head. These are the words you might say. Is, oh, is that what it is? Oh, I understand now. And you can change it when you get that type of, that's what it is. So that's a little bit what I'm going to tell you about. It's all about stepping away from fear. So, here's a question to you. Do you know anyone who hasn't been frightened, who hasn't been fearful, who hasn't been anxious of something? That was a pause to let you think. And here's another question to you. Let's get closer to home. You know what I'm going to say? Have you ever been frightened? Have you ever been fearful? Have you ever been anxious? Because we all have, haven't we? But the thing about this is, Because we've all been frightened, we've all been fearful, we've all been anxious. And guess what? Take a deep breath with me now. That's you being alive. So you're still here, even though you've been frightened, even though you've been fearful, even though you've been anxious, you still get to be alive. So that's a good thing. It is a good thing, isn't it? Yeah. But the thing is, I bet there's been times when you have been frightened, fearful, or anxious. But you know what? You just moved on. You just moved on. It didn't really affect you. Yes, I know in the past, we call them SEEs, significant emotional events. And they're the ones they're highly charged with emotion because they're significant, I guess. But there are other times where I know you've been fearful, frightened, and anxious. You've moved on and it doesn't bother you. You don't dump it onto the next event where you get a little bit fearful, so you get twice as fearful, twice as frightened, twice as anxious. Sometimes, yes, that's what we do, exactly what we do. But these other little events in our lives, we've had a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety, of frightenedness, being frightened. And how come we've moved on? How did you do that? How did you just go through that event and go, oh, and carry on with the next bit of your life? You see, I know the answer to that. In fact, you do too, if you just don't know that you know it. You see, what happened was you learned from it there and then. You suddenly thought, oh, either that wasn't as frightened as I thought it was, or, oh, I can do that differently, or, do you know what? I did do it differently in the middle and it got better. I found a way to feel safer, more comfortable, to get the result I wanted. Or you just thought to yourself, well, I'm not doing that again because that would be silly because it's uncomfortable. So I'll do something differently. And you think of ways to do it differently. And there's a clue in that. You see, you just took that one step to move from it by learning from it. But because it wasn't highly emotional, because it wasn't so significant, you were able to do that, I guess, a little bit more consciously, but also, I don't think you do anything consciously only or unconsciously only. So your unconscious mind, because it's always learning, isn't it? You're always learning. When you're not overwhelmed with emotion, you just learn. And you move on. You take a step. You take a step to move. You could say move away from it, but you move towards what you want. That's a better way to put it. Because when you move away from things, you get to a point where, I can stand this. I'm far enough away. You never really go towards something. But when you take one step to move towards what you want, it's like it pulls you. You're motivated to carry on. So that's a little thing to think about, isn't it? Some things we get really frightened of. Some things frighten us. And other things frighten us a little bit, makes us fearful, makes us anxious, and we can just move on from it. I mean, just come to my mind. Just think of when we watch a horror movie. Sometimes they can be bloody frightening. And then the film finishes and we carry on. Sometimes that does affect us. We turn all the lights on before we go to bed as we go up the stairs. But hey, that creak, ooh. Let's take our minds off that. Because let's look at fear and anxiety in a way that we ask the question, what does it do for you? Oh, Cluffy, I hear you say, what the hell can being frightened do for me? What could be fearful do for me? What could be anxious doing? What can it do for me? Well, you see, firstly, there's a positive intention to try to keep you safe. I mean, that's what it's trying to do for you. Point blank, that's what it's trying to do for you. But the thing is, it's a secondary emotion, just like anger. What you talk about secondary emotions. I'll give you a story to explain it. You see, when an event happens and it is some type of danger to you, or your unconscious mind perceives it as danger, you go into fight, flight, and there's a little bit, I call it in brackets, freeze. Sometimes we just stop still, but we either fight, flight, run, or freeze. And we do that without thinking. That's I think, one of the few times that our unconscious mind just takes total control. We tend to just lose everything in our conscious mind. Sometimes even forget it as well. It's weird, isn't it? But again, is it weird, Cluffy? No, it's not, because it's another way of protecting you, isn't it? Because it was significantly emotional. Therefore, you fight, flight, or freeze. Your unconscious mind uses that to protect you. And another form of protection is to give you a little bit of amnesia for it. And then, no problem. But here's the thing. That's when the secondary emotion of either anger or being frightened, fearful, or anxious comes into it. Let me tell you a story. I've told you about my dog, Howie. Well, this isn't about him. This was about the dog before that I had. He was a rescue dog as well. And his name was Taz. And he was a lovely soul. He really was a lovely soul. He was very fearful. He'd been obviously mistreated by so badly. And somehow he and I just struck up this connection. We could walk anywhere together. Didn't need a lead. If I asked him to lay down, he would lay down, and I could walk away for hours and come back. He'd still be there. He would not move. He used to work with me. In fact, the wonderful thing with Taz was he would come into my client's room when I'm working with a client doing hypnosis. He'd come in and sit down and have a sleep on the floor. He'd snore. I had to wake him up sometimes. But he was such a wonderful soul. As I said, he gave people a calming, comfortable feeling to be around. But the thing is, that's beside the point. Because I was walking Taz one day. We were by ourselves and we were walking around this green, this common as it were. And as we come, there was a housing estate beside it. And as we were walking down the path by the housing estate, you used to do like a little circuit. All of a sudden, these 3 dogs come and attacked Taz. So what did I do? Without thinking, I ran over to them. Get out! And I shouted, and they ran away. But the thing was, so that was my initial fight and flight for Taz, my mate. But then there was some more shouting, and it wasn't me. There was these 3 guys, and they were either drunk. There was certainly looked like there was a lot of drugs involved, and they came after me, like their dogs came after Taz. Now, I could have stayed and fight, but 3 on the 1. But also, you get these things where, things like knives and suddenly come out of, and I don't do that, but I'm not a fighter, I don't think. I know I'm not. So what did I do? I just called Taz, gave him a whistle, and we walked really quickly. It wasn't quite a run, but it was quicker than that. Bless them. They couldn't run. They couldn't walk as fast as me, but I didn't fancy what they had in their hands and things like that. So we just ran and got away. And they left us. And I went home. And as I sat there, I started to get so angry. So angry. Who were they to have dogs that would just attack another dog? Who were they to think that they could just shout at me and come after me? So angry. And then I got really frightened and anxious because I started to think, but what would happen if I did decide to stay and there was a knife? Wonder what would have happened. At that time, I had a family. I said I have a family, but you know what I mean. They were a young family. Don't know why that makes a difference. Seems to make a difference to me emotionally. But what would happen if their dad had been killed? All because of a bit of bravado, maybe. And that made me really anxious. But, and here's a but, I don't normally do a but. First of all, you can see how that fight and flight protects us. It's unconscious. It worked. It protected Taz. It protected me and Taz as we got away. And I didn't think about it. It just works. It saved me. It kept me safe. But then again, the anxiety and the anger. But why doesn't that affect me anymore? Why is it when I'm walking My other dog, Carla now. This is, she used to be with Howie. She loved him, and now, unfortunately, Howie's not here, but Carla's still here, and I take her for a walk. Why am I frightened? Why wasn't I frightened when I took Howie for a walk? Because I'd learnt. Don't go, if the area looks a little bit weird, a little bit suspect, walk away. Go to a nicer place. In fact, go to a better park. Go to a park where there's nice people walking and running and healthy, and the fresh air and nature, and just enjoy yourself. And in fact, I used to start taking Taz to a different walk because I'd learned. And that's it. Because I'd learned. Now, remember what I said a little while ago? I started to take a step towards having a better time, but being safer. And because I'd learned from it, unconsciously and consciously, that anger and that fear just disappeared. I only think about it when I use it as an example. But you can tell from my voice, I think, that it's not affecting me anymore. And you see, here's the thing I thought about, is you see, anxiety and fear, well, anger as well, all those things. But we're talking about anxiety, being fearful, frightened. It doesn't work, does it? How does it work? Because it doesn't. There's a big conflict going on here. You see, if you think about it, we said we've got fight and flight. That's hardwired. Hardwired in neurology. Whatever happens, that stays there. You cannot get rid of it because it just works unconsciously. But when you get wrapped up in the conscious thoughts of being anxious and fearful, and your unconscious mind thinks, oh, this is good, will make you even more fearful so it doesn't happen again, because that was really significant in the past. It was emotional. I don't want you to go through that again. But think about it. Does fear, anxiety, and fear, anxiety, and fright, being fearful, help your health? Nah, does it? Well, you know what I'm going to say. Physically, it doesn't help you. Your blood pressure goes up. Your heart rate sometimes you get palpitations. People get anxiety attacks. Yeah? How can that be healthy? And the thing is, if you ever see anybody having an anxiety attack, high blood pressure, palpitations, they're not in the event. They're nowhere near the thing that used to make them fearful, used to make them frightened, and used to make them anxious. But they're thinking about it. And it's like, so how can thinking about it, and where did you get that thought from? You got it unconsciously because you work together. And that's that little signal from your unconscious mind saying, hey, get frightened about this so you don't do it because I'm saving you. But it's not saving you if you think about it. Here's the conflict. That anxiety and fear is just causing your body to react badly. And if that carries on, well, it's not going to be the best result for you, is it? I don't like to talk about things like that going in the future and having bad health, but that will not promote good health. Put it that way, yeah? What about the stress on all your body? The worry? Making up those pictures in your mind of things that haven't happened. Making them so big, so bright, to really increase that anxiety, that fear. This doesn't work, does it? So why do you do it? Why do you choose to do it that way? What? Choose? Okay, Cluffy. Now, I know what you're saying. I've got you now, Cluffy. I don't choose to do it. Okay. Well, if you don't choose to do it, why do you do it? Think I got you there. And in the next episode, I'm going to go even deeper to why you choose anything, everything. But for just now, just for this moment, why do you choose to stay in anxiety? Why do you choose to stay in fear? Why do you choose to just be frightened, to worry, to have all that stress? You see, the simple answer is you don't do it only consciously. Because if it was just conscious, as I said, you would just say, I choose not to do it. And you wouldn't. But it's unconscious because it's your unconscious mind has this wonderful thing that it has to try to protect you. And guess what? It's found a way. It's found a way to protect you. You see, if you think about it, and this is where that other episode is going to go, your whole life has been a whole string of one decision after another, mainly unconscious. Conscious mind comes in together. But from the moment you came into this world, you have been making decisions to react in a particular way or do something. Think about it. And we will. We'll think about that and the effect and what we can do with it in another episode. And that's going to be, I think, next week. But anyway, let's go back to this thing. So why do we choose? Why do we choose to feel anxious, frightened, that lack of confidence, that worry, that stress? Why do we choose it? And it is, as I said, it's mainly, it starts off unconsciously because it works instantly. It stops you doing something that would cause you, say, embarrassment. Might cause you stress. Hey, you're stressful about it. It might cause you guilt. There might be failure in it. There might be, anything. It might cause you a loss. It might cause you grief. You think of every negative emotion, and that's what it could cause you. This event could cause you this negative thing. I'm going to protect you. I'm your best friend, says your unconscious mind. I'm going to get you to worry about it before you do it. And on top of that, well, it only gets you to worry, but it gives you stress. It gives you anxiety. It makes you fucking frightened. And on top of that, just to reinforce it, just to make sure it really, really, really works, it gives you a limiting belief, a negative belief. Oh, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not worth it. I'm stupid. Now, you get that all together. You get those horrible feelings. You get that limiting belief tucked away in there, and boom. The positive intention is to protect you, and guess what? You don't go into that event. And it's worked. You see, I'm going to show you the conflict in a minute, but you may get it already now, but we're going to go even more specific in that. But guess what? Because it worked before. What do you mean it worked before, Cluffy? Well, here's the thing. You may not know it, but it's only when you get like one-to-one when I'm working with a client, suddenly these things, these memories come up, and they are significant, but they're traumatizing, but only to a youngster, to a younger you. When you look back at it at your age now, you go, oh, I can understand why I got frightened. Oh, there's the learning. But we're not there yet. But you see, what happens is, I believe, I could be wrong, but probably not. I don't know where I get that from. But hey, sometime in your past, generally when you're younger, something happens, and your unconscious mind, with the wisdom that it has, the experience that it has right there and then, does something like it gives you a little bit of fear, gives you a little bit of anxiety. It gives you a little bit of frightening, if that's a thing it can give you. Just a little bit. And you stop in your tracks. And you don't do the thing. Because the last time you did it, it caused you embarrassment, stress, guilt, failure. Maybe even was frightening. So the next time it comes along, it goes, I know what to do. I'm going to stop you doing this by giving you just a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of worry. And the thing is, that just snowballs. Because you think back then, that little bit of fear was only a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety. But through the years, you get bigger, you get stronger, you're going to do more things, and your unconscious mind says, I'm going to have to protect you even more from those things. So because you're going to do more things, I'm going to have to just ramp this up a little bit. And if you go back through your feelings, if you were to experience it, you went back a few years, you'd really notice. So you went back, just go back a year or two with this feeling. You'd probably find it's lesser than it feels right now. And then if you went back to your teenage years, it'd be a lot less. And if you went further back, it'd be even smaller, less intense, because that feeling has grown like a snowball coming down a hill, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the other thing what happens is, it tends to generalize too. So you were frightened of one particular thing. One thing happened and it frightened you. It caused you that grief. It caused you that all those things I talked about anyway. That guilt, that failure, that embarrassment. Now your unconscious mind might go, so, well, I can save you from that one. But what about at work now? That could be something where you might fail. That might be something where you might be embarrassed. So I will get you to worry about that. And then what about in a relationship? Going to talk to people. That could be embarrassing. That could be failure. Could get guilty about that. I'm going to do the same thing. So it generalizes into different areas. Now, the good thing about this is when you get rid of it, guess what? It disappears from all those other areas too. You don't have to work on every different context. You work with the root cause, the one thing that when disappeared would allow all those other areas of your life to get better. And you see, you perpetuate this as well, because it also doesn't just do it in the moment. It's that worry. You've got that wonderful skill of imagination, haven't you? Where you can imagine everything. And when, I know people will say, oh, I don't visualize, Paul. No, I've never visualized in my life. I haven't visualized at all. I don't know why I put that funny voice on, but they say that. But I know when they start to worry, they can see pictures in their mind. You can too. It's unconscious. Because I'm not consciously trying to visualize, it just happens. And I can make the best pictures of things going wrong. And that'll help me worry even more. And you see, to some extent, with your unconscious mind, it's saying, well, if I'm going to protect you, I've got to really make it more and more intense. And I've told you this story before, and I'm going to tell you it again. I was working with this client, this guy, who at work, he'd been promoted. He'd been moving up the ranks in his career, and now he's been promoted to a point where he is given the responsibility to not only talk to the company, but to go out and talk to investors, because he's so good at what he does. But the thing is, he said, Paul, I can't speak in front of people. I really can't. I get this really horrible feeling. I can see it all happening in my mind, all the things going wrong. I'm dying. I'm bombing. I get so embarrassed. Can never do it. I'm useless. You can hear all those limiting beliefs. You can hear that embarrassment. And then we just started to do some work. And he said, I don't know why, Paul. And I did. He didn't call me Cluffy. He calls me Paul because it's professional. And he said, this memory popped up. He said, I was in a choir and I was asked to do a solo. Now, there's one thing being asked to be a solo, because that didn't bother me as a kid. Yeah, I was looking forward to it. And then someone picked me up, because I wasn't that big, for everyone else to see, and put me on a table in front of everybody and said, go on then, you sing this solo because it's going to get even worse, because there'll be loads more people. So sing it now. And he said, I froze with embarrassment. Couldn't do it. He said, it's the same bloody feeling, Paul. But he said, how can that be the same thing? Because that's singing and not talking. And the thing is, you say, well, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's getting up in front of people, doing the thing that you know you can do, but not doing it. So you got that wonderful positive intention of, I'll protect you from that feeling of embarrassment. But the thing is, he's going to do it anyway. So he's either going to bomb, because leave his job, or what we said was, if this is to protect you from embarrassment, what would be a better way to protect you from embarrassment, to keep you safe? And he said, well, if I don't know. I said, well, let's not think about it in the way that it's definitely going to happen. Let's imagine if it was never to happen, how would you be to be safe, to be comfortable, to know that you couldn't fail, you couldn't get embarrassed? He said, well, if that was the case, I would have not overconfidence, but I'd just have a good feeling inside me, a good, strong feeling. And he said, I'd be able to remember the facts. I'd be able to remember the thing I want to share with people, because I love sharing this stuff. I've got all of that. So of course you have. Let's just imagine doing it now. And it was like his unconscious mind went, hallelujah, or something like that. We did a little process to get his unconscious mind to realize what it's been doing in the past was wonderful, but now inappropriate. The intention was wonderful, to protect him from embarrassment. But now there's a better way to protect him and be comfortable and also succeed. And when he succeeded at speaking to these people, he felt awesome. And it was going to make his life better. whoa. And it's that easy. That's what I said before. It's that easy to change. And in a moment, doesn't matter you've had, for him, it was like 40 years of this thing. It doesn't take 40 years to get it better because he'd waste of time then, wouldn't it? It took 40 minutes roughly and it was just gone. And the thing is, what you tend to find is what you're feeling is what your unconscious mind is trying to stop you from feeling. So you've got things like their intention is to keep you safe. But the whole point is when you think about it, he was embarrassed. You see, his unconscious mind was trying to stop him from being embarrassed, but he was embarrassed to even tell me about it. He was embarrassed to think that he had to tell his bosses, I can't do this. So in fact, the very thing his unconscious mind was trying to stop him from feeling, he was feeling. And it's a direct conflict. And when you understand there's a direct conflict, boom, your unconscious mind wants to find a better way because it realizes what it's trying to protect you from is not working. In fact, it's causing the very thing it's trying to protect you from. And that's that understanding, that knowledge. And when you have that understanding and knowledge, we can move on to the next bit, how you want to be. Because let's think about it. If it doesn't keep you safe, sometimes when you feeling guilty and you're not doing something because your unconscious mind is to stop you feeling guilty doing it again, how do you feel? You feel bloody guilty for not doing it. Like he was feeling embarrassed for not doing it. When you feel stressful about things, it's your unconscious mind is trying to take you away from stress, but not doing that thing or getting overwhelmed by the pictures you make in your mind is making you even more stressful. It's a direct conflict with that intention. And there's a but. And we never have buts in the Personal Development Unplugged podcast, do we? But there is a sort of but. But the intention is absolutely wonderful. Your unconscious mind is great. Because if you think about it, if you knew you could do anything, all those things that you want to do, all those things that you dream of, but you're holding back, you're putting off, you're worrying about, if you knew you could do them and you'd be totally safe, totally comfortable, totally successful. And I don't like to say this, like guilt-free, embarrassment-free, stress-free, because when you think about that, you think about that. But think about the opposite. When you're just succeeding and you're feeling comfortable and you're feeling good in yourself. You're feeling confident. Your self-esteem is moving to a lovely level. That's blooming awesome, isn't it? Absolutely awesome. Yeah. And then when you think about that, how do you feel? Isn't that interesting now? That if you just think about the things that you used to be frightened about, the things you used to worry about, the things you used to be anxious about, if you think about them by saying, I want to keep the intention of being safe. I want to be comfortable though. That would be better. I want to be confident, not overconfident, but confident, competent, being able to, like this guy, be able to get the facts, to connect, to have a real connection with people, to be free. Suddenly feels different, doesn't it? So, where do we start? Got to give a how. Now, you see, if it's big, like that guy who had to do some public speaking, it was his job. He couldn't put it off. It was like next week. I've had people there was a flautist. He was awesome playing the flute. But he was going to stand up in front of this massive, very famous orchestra and play his solo. He said, I can do it blindfolded, Paul. I can do it. He couldn't do it with one hand behind his back, but you know what he felt. He was confident that he could. How can a flautist do it with one hand behind his back, Cluffy? But he could do it. But he said, just the thought about it and the worry, because I've got to get it right. I've got to get it so right. Can't get it wrong. All those wonderful things about getting it wrong. Again, we just changed it. Took away the conflict. What would be better for him? Because he's going to do it anyway. So, but that was big. So you go to one-to-one. You find a therapist, someone like me. It's not a plug for me. I do it online. I do a lot of coaching online, and one-to-one in the clinic room. But there's I say that again. There are loads of us around. Good ones of us. You know, I always suggest that you find someone who does hypnosis to a really good level, NLP to a really good level, timeline therapy to a good level, with the thought of getting you to a result better than you could dream of, quicker than you can dream of. You get that as an intention from a therapist with those skills. Be awesome. And the thing is, you can also do this as well. So this is not, well, if it's so badly, if I'm suffering badly, I have to go and see a one-to-one. That would be awesome. Get it done. But you can add to that. This will not stop the result. It might even help the result get there quicker. Sometimes just find the conflict. Just notice the emotion it's protecting you from. Yeah? So initially you say, well, I'm just frightened, Paul. I'm worrying. Yeah, but what are you worrying about feeling? What are you frightened about feeling? Because that guy was worried about being embarrassed. Both of them were really embarrassed. Embarrassed about making a mistake, maybe. Maybe there were things guilty because I should be able to do this. Something like that. Or maybe, it is just, I don't want to be a failure. I don't want to be stressful, or whatever it is, because you'll find that feeling below that anxiety, worry will be the thing that your unconscious mind is trying to protect you from. And once you've got it, so sometimes it matters sitting down. I mean, that's what you do with one-to-one. You sit down, we talk about it. I get someone to hone down on that feeling. It doesn't make them feel it any worse. I don't want that. But we're just getting to a point where we're going, it's that feeling. This is the one that's causing it. And when you get it, and you go, well, what does it feel like now when you feel that feeling? And then you go, oh, that's total embarrassment, Paul. Or that's totally being a failure, getting it wrong. It comes out. If you're open, you ask the question, what is this feeling? What are you trying to do for me? What are you trying to do for me that's important, that's positive by having me feel this way? And you'll get some type of intuition. And if you don't, hey, go back to the one-to-one. But this will help anyway, just by feeling it, because you're now acknowledging it. Now, I say the word acknowledge because you've heard me say it before. You do not accept it. This is just me. I don't accept my feelings that I have, the negative emotions, even the positive emotions. I don't accept them. I acknowledge them. Because I feel when you accept it as being, it's okay. And no, even good feelings, I want better. So I'm acknowledging them. How can I make it better? How can I make these feelings better? And get your unconscious mind rather, to work for you. It's working for you anyway. But now you're saying, now I understand what you're doing. Here's a feeling. Here's the feeling you give me. I get a feeling, or when I say a feeling, I get an understanding, an intuition, what I think you're doing. You don't get it right, your unconscious mind. And you say, how can we do this better so I can feel comfortable? How do I want to feel? And you can do this. You can say, well, what would be a better way? And even the fact that, get your puzzle book out and say, what feelings, what emotions, what skills have I got that would make this a better way to get what I want and feel comfortable and feel safe? That would actually make me feel safer, would actually make me feel more comfortable, more successful, allow me to have more riches in life. And riches in every shape and form. And as if your unconscious mind is going to say, well, hey, I've just noticed what I'm doing is no longer working. And everything you've just mentioned, yeah. And when you write it down, you have to think about it. And when you think about it, you feel it. So you're feeling that comfortableness. You're feeling that success. You're feeling that awareness. That guy felt that connection with his audience in his mind and in his body then. And it's like your unconscious mind says, that's what we're going to do. Let's work on it. Now you can help even further. Because we said right near the beginning, where he said your unconscious mind gives you uses that wonderful skill you've got, which is imagination. And it gets you to imagine all the crap stuff that might happen. Doesn't, but if everything went really bad, this could happen. So we do it the other way. We've got this skill of imagineering. Let's imagine. Imagine having that recipe of all those wonderful skills, those feelings, those emotions that would make you feel safe. So not only connection, but it would be that feeling of comfort. That would be that feeling of connecting to the information you want to share. That feeling of just sharing. That feeling of success. Feeling of gratitude. Ooh, there's a good one. and imagine yourself doing it. We're not going to do it. We've done it enough times, but you can do that, and I will do something sometime. Just seeing yourself over there, or just imagining in your mind, I am doing this, looking through your own eyes. Even if you imagine yourself over there doing it, you need to go in and then be in it. Makes it even stronger. Your unconscious mind can learn from it over there, but when you go in and make sure it's just right, and then come back to yourself, always come back to yourself, and say those words, this or something better. And also just get your unconscious mind, you can actually just write it down. You don't have to answer it, saying, well, what can I learn? What can I learn from those old events? The learnings of which will allow me to let it go and to be comfortable, to enjoy life. There you go. So what did I tell you? I said I was going to tell you some stuff, and I've told you it. So let's quickly review. Has anyone here felt fear and anxiety? We all have. That was my little hook in there. I told you that story about me and Taz, and that fear and anxiety only being secondary, because you've got fight and flight, hardwired in your neurology. It protects you from everything from a saber-toothed tiger to running away from people who might have knives. And you learn from it, because the things you learn from, you walk away from, or walk towards something better. And all we're using is that same simple process of learning, but getting, the little ones we learn from and we move on. This is just learning a bit deeper. Knowing that you choose it for a positive reason. Something happened, and your unconscious mind decided to help protect you. What a wonderful friend. And then we just get to educate it a little bit, to get more appropriate. These things are no longer appropriate. You've missed out all my experiences. You've missed out all my learnings. You've missed out all my everything, my skills, everything I've got. What would happen if you found a recipe to make me comfortable? And then get your unconscious mind to recognize a conflict. What it's doing for you is no longer working. In fact, it's making you feel the exact thing that it doesn't want you to feel, protecting you from. And then you decide on your recipe, what would be better? Help your unconscious mind to find those skills. And then you imagine it, using that skill of imagineering. Write it down in your old puzzle book. And then you say those wonderful words, what can I learn from this? And all those past experiences that would allow me to have it this way, and this or something better. Boom. Because, I said right at the very beginning, simpler than you think. And if it's a bit too complicated, get that one-to-one. But it is a simple process of saying, not this, but this instead, and keeping the intention. It's where I started from. That was my meta view. And your unconscious mind, I said, is so wonderful and good, just a little bit misguided. And you choose unconsciously. And the thing about this, if you choose anything, you can unchoose it in a moment. And that's what you can do. You can change in a moment. You just have to sit down for a spell. Sit down for a change. And just wonder, what is the most wonderful changes I can make to let go and learn to have the most wonderful life, better than I can imagine, brighter than I can imagine, richer than I can ever imagine? What would that be like? And let that go deep inside. I hope you enjoyed all of that. I just hope you enjoyed it. And I hope like me, you've learned from it. Because when I write this down, it's that thing I say, when you share things, you get to know what you know. You get to know what you don't know. And I have to then find it before I come and share it with you. And put it in order and a shape that hopefully is communicated with elegance and eloquence. Now, I know I didn't get those, but maybe I got a little bit out of tenor out of both of those. But I did it with passion. And I did it with an intent to share, but just to share that you can change anything that you want. Because it's inside you to change. You have that ability. I'd love you to share this episode, obviously. Please share it with everyone, because no one needs to suffer from fear, anxiety, being frightened, unconfident, low self-esteem. They don't need to. So please share this. This is a first step, as it were, to move towards something else. So please share this episode. Please tell everyone about the personal development unplugged.com podcast, but that's not .com. Personal Development Unplugged Podcast. That's the website where you hear some of this stuff. But also you got paulcloughonline.com. There is a .com there. We've got paulcloughonline.com, which just has, not loads. I've been very selective. Got 1 or 2 programs there and some different hypnosis tracks. Premium, I call them premium because you pay for them. But you've got that supreme inner confidence where we go through this type of stuff in detail with some wonderful processes to let go of stuff in the past, to really reinforce it in the now, and then get that imagination in your unconscious mind to hook into it in the future. It's a great program. And if you sign up to the hypnosis tracks, paulcloughonline.com/podcast, you get an email. You even get a newsletter once a month with a little video of me. It's only a short video just for me to share things with you. But also it gives you a code. You put that in and you get something like 70% discount. So it's magic. Well, not magic, because you're magical. It's magical in a way. It just feels good. So you've also got all those 50 plus hypnosis tracks if you do that too. And they're free. So it's there for you to play with. And this is all about being playful. Let's be serious in our being playful. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. Have more fun than you can stand. And I wonder, if you just look the other way, just turn your conscious mind off for a moment while I speak to your best friend. I wonder what it would be like if you, the unconscious mind, was to surprise them daily and feel happy for no reason. For them to wonder, wow, I'm feeling so happy. There's no reason. That would be great fun. Hey, have a think about that. Anyway, my friends, that's back to us again. It's time to fly. See you next time. Bye-bye now.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.